Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about another TikTok trend that is per usual toxic, but I think it's a little bit different because a lot of these specific TikTok trends that I'm going to be talking about involve adults. Now, a lot of the ones I've discussed in the past are focused on teens or like generally young people who, I'm not saying they have an excuse, but you can think, okay, they're not fully matured. They don't necessarily know what they're saying. So there's, let's say, a tiny bit of wiggle room, even though I don't condone it. I don't think it's okay. I can at least see a reason why they might think that because of their given age and maybe lack of life experience as opposed to someone who's like, say, 20 years older than them, right? So today we're going to be talking about a TikTok trend that involves plastic surgery, fillers, stuff like that. There's nothing gory in this video. You're not going to see anything, like blood or anything like that. But if that's not a topic that suits you, just be warned. Before we do that though, I did want to thank today's sponsor, which is NordVPN. As of right now, you can get a huge discount on a 2-year plan of NordVPN plus 1 free additional month by going to nordvpn.com/readytoglare. A VPN is a virtual private network, meaning that when you're online, your data is encrypted and you can send and receive data safely. NordVPN has a no logs policy, so none of your private data is either collected, tracked, or shared. On top of this, they've added a new feature called Threat Protection, which protects you even further as it makes sure you do not download anything from malicious sites. It spots malware, and all of this is done even if you're not connected to a VPN. Lastly, another cool feature that you're probably already familiar with is that VPNs allow you to access streaming sites that may not exist in your country. I was just back home in Italy for a few weeks and used NordVPN to access streaming websites so I could continue to watch my favorite shows that weren't on the Italian catalog. Remember to go to nordvpn.com/readytoglare to get a huge discount on a 2-year plan of NordVPN with an additional month and its risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. Thank you, NordVPN, for sponsoring this video. The video in question that caught my attention, you guys may have seen on Twitter or on TikTok because it's getting dragged to hell, and for good reason. I'll insert it here.
Alright guys, let's talk about Natalia Dyer from Stranger Things. First of all, she killed it in Stranger Things, and if you don't like Stranger Things, we cannot be friends. So, if I was Natalia's injector, this is what I would do. We start by treating those masseters, and we all know how much I love treating masseters to help slim the face. Next, I would actually add a little bit of chin filler just to help fill out her chin and make her whole face more of like a heart shaped. Next, I would add a little bit to the lips, just a little bit, nothing crazy, just a nice pout. And then we'd get in there and do a little bit of Botox. I'd give her a nice brow lift to help open up her eyes. And to top it off, we'd start working with some Sculptra. She does seem to have more thin skin, and we want to prevent that from getting thinner and create more collagen. All right, let's see what the final product would give us. Ta-da! All right, how do we like my Photoshop skills? As we can tell, her jaw is slimmer, her chin is more pointy, and her eyebrows are more lifted, and gotta love that pout. Comment below with your thoughts. Do we love it? Do we hate it?
Now, as usual, I have to do my little preface of if you want to get plastic surgery, if you want to get fillers, whatever body modification you want to do, as long as you're older than 18 is really none of my business. So if you want to do any of that, but here we're specifically talking about like beautification procedures, let us just call them that, I guess. If you want to do that, I have no issue, honestly. And I think that if something helps you make you feel better about yourself, as long as it's not hurting anyone else, obviously, but if it makes you feel better about yourself, if there's something that you don't like and that you can change and you have the means to do it, I think you should totally do it if it is your choice. And this is where I think this whole trend is dicey because I don't find it to be motivating or, supportive as much as I find it to be, frankly, quite patronizing, rude, inappropriate, and just overall unnecessary. Because there's that saying, and I'm probably gonna butcher it right now, but the saying is basically like, don't comment on someone's appearance unless they can fix it in like 5 seconds, So it's the difference between telling someone, oh, you have some spinach stuck in your teeth, versus telling them that they need to lose 15 pounds right now, like there's a difference between those two types of statements. And I think that pretty much explains also the kind of mentality behind this particular TikTok trend, because I find it at its core malicious, because here we're talking about this celebrity from Stranger Things, right? First of all, they're a gorgeous person, so like I don't understand like why this was even brought into question, especially unsolicited, as an unsolicited advice. That's another thing that I don't really understand in terms of appearance. If you're giving people unsolicited appearance advice, maybe rethink that, okay? Because most of the time people don't want it, or they would have asked you. And second of all, most of the time it's also hurtful, because if I saw someone making a video of me saying how my face has to be fixed or how I'd look better, I get it all the time, you know, like my lips are too thin, or, you know, like my jaw is too masculine. Like I've heard all these things before. And as unsolicited advice, frankly, at this point, I don't really care anymore, because like it is what it is, and I don't really want to do any type of surgery. It's just not something I'm interested in. But initially, it's very jarring and it's very hurtful. And to have like millions of people online seeing your face get altered by someone who claims to be, because at the end of the day, who really knows, you know, like who's posing as, you know, a nurse or surgeon or doctor who does these kinds of procedures. Someone telling you you have to get all these different injections in your face to look better, and then they go all the way to Photoshop your face to show what kind of results you'd get if you did everything they said you should do. That to me is perverse and weird. And I also think, considering what's going on social media right now, and by that I mean we already have this cultural problem, especially with the younger people, both boys and girls really, that there's a lot of insecurity because, you know, and you know, even with people my own age, you know, we're getting closer to 30, there's this level of insecurity, and I'm not saying that in a shady way, but it's more like you see all these Instagram models, you see all these super fit or ripped people, you see these brands that are always repping super thin, well, a lot of young thin women, men as well, but a lot of young women, at least in, you know, the algorithm, my algorithm, what I see online. And so I feel doubly hurtful, because it's like we already have this existing problem, and you're kind of capitalizing on that existing problem by trying to get people to get these procedures that are completely unnecessary, in the sense of, for that actress, for example, she already looked beautiful before. There was no need to like fill in her jaw and like lift her eyes and all these things. Like those are things she gets to determine if they're necessary for her, but you don't get to say that and put that out there and beautify someone, I say that in quotation marks, against their will. I feel like that's just really weird. I feel like that's also just like a very weird way to spend your time, to like analyze someone's face and say like, what work could I do on it to make them more beautiful in my eyes? That's a little bit self-centered too, huh? Something to think about. I went through her TikTok. I saw a lot of her content, and I think the majority of it was about Botox and fillers generally. There was some about skincare, but a lot of it was about Botox. And then there was this other video that I came across that really irked me, and this might be a little bit me being nitpicky and like semantics, but I do think it matters, and I'll tell you why.
So a lot of people say, why should I get Botox in my 20s? I don't even have any wrinkles. Or they'll be like, oh, she's just trying to sell her product. You don't need it that early. Let me explain why you need it in your 20s and before the wrinkle starts to kick in. So let me bring out the textbook to help you explain. So you have dynamic rhytids and static rhytids, and rhytids are just a fancy word for wrinkle. So a dynamic wrinkle is only there when the muscle contracts. So what that means is when you frown, you would see the wrinkle, and when you don't, the wrinkle's not there. And on the other hand, a static wrinkle is when the wrinkle is there when you're not frowning. And that just means that no matter what, if you're frowning, if you're not frowning, you're going to see that line. Because over time, with continuous contraction of that muscle, you've created a static wrinkle. So if you're in your 20s and you start to see that dynamic wrinkle, so when you frown, you see that prominent line, start getting Botox. You will thank yourself later because you won't ever develop any static wrinkles. And static wrinkles are so much harder to get rid of than dynamic wrinkles.
So as you may have noticed, she said, let me tell you why you need it. And that bothered me because, again, I don't think this is coming from a place of support. Like, it's not coming as to me in any case, and maybe I'm nitpicking, you guys can let me know, but there's a difference between making a TikTok being like, hey, this is why some people get Botox in their 20s, and you explain the information behind it, you explain what's in Botox, the reactions, how long it lasts, the price, whatever, like an infographic. That's one thing. To say this is why you need it, you're selling things. And I think it's fake to pretend you're not selling something there, because anyone telling you you need something that you absolutely do not need, like Botox, that's an issue. And like I said, it always goes back to you having your own autonomy. Because if you decide to get Botox in your early 20s, go for it. But I don't support someone coming out here and making you feel like you need it. And there were people in the comments being like, is it too late for me? I'm 27, or is it too late? Blah, blah, blah. And you know, like the rest of the video talks about those types of wrinkles, and you know, like if you don't do it soon enough, then those wrinkles will become like more permanent, whatever. I just think this is trying to capitalize on the insecurities we see out there right now, and it really is gross. Also because it's coming from someone older, and I'm not shading her age or anything, but I'm saying this is not like a 14-year-old saying something stupid on the internet. This is someone who allegedly, I haven't seen proof of it, but I'm assuming allegedly has a license to do all these procedures, has them on themselves, and is telling you that you need them, knowing full well that TikTok has a very, very large young audience. So telling people that, I think, is not only irresponsible, but dangerous, because you're kind of coloring how someone sees something without letting them come to their own conclusions, which is why I said you should let them decide for themselves, is Botox something I need? Botox can be used obviously for other things other than, you know, like superficial like beauty or whatever. Like it can be used to help with migraines and all these other things. And it's like, maybe we should talk about that instead, because I find that more helpful to say like, hey, if you have migraines and you're of age, you can consider doing this because it's helped some people. But the whole framing of this and the narrative of this as a necessity is concerning to me. And the other thing is also, I was reading the comments and there were people saying that basically anytime she beautifies people, they all end up looking low-key the same. Like they all end up having like a heart-shaped face. The face stops being angular, which I think is kind of sad, because I don't know if it's because a lot of my favorite models have like really strong jaws and really strong cheekbones, so I love angular faces. But a lot of these celebrities end up looking the same because they basically get the same, like, what, 10 procedures she listed. So that's also alarming, because do we really want to live in a place where everyone looks the same because of insecurity and because you're guilt tripped or like manipulated into buying shit that you don't need and that you might not even want in the first place? I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.